Hey, welcome everyone. This is another bonus edition of Talking Tampa Bay Sports with Roe. So for the longtime listeners that are continuing to follow this show as it turned into the Stone Genius, welcome back. I'm glad that we're getting to talk about Stanley Cup hockey in June. Still, I have said since the beginning of the season when I started the show, I haven't been worried about the Lightning. We've won 2 Stanley Cups in a row. I'm okay. You know what? I'm glad that we're where we're at, but I'm okay. So yesterday I talked about how this series was going and what I saw from the Rangers. And I have a coworker who is a Rangers fan. And we had some disagreements on, well, not disagreements. So this was the problem. I want to say disagreements, but they weren't disagreements. And that's what was making me so mad. So my coworker, and I told you all yesterday that I needed to uninvite this person because they weren't, they were not, there was not enough conflict. And so when they finally listened to the show yesterday, they sent me a text, just finished it. You weren't kidding. You're worked up. But then they said, I still like your analysis of the series. It could end up based of what you were seeing from a Tampa Bay perspective. So then I had to say, stop being so nice. This is why I can't have you on. And then they answered again. That's what I was wondering too. I would definitely approach it from my analytical perspective. I don't want that. I want passion. I want you to say, no, Ryan Reeves is going to stick up for Igor and go tooth and nail and fight about that. And I was like, this is never going to happen. But yet here we are, welcoming to the show my coworker, the Rangers fan. How you doing?
Doing great. Glad to be here.
So we have not talked since Game 4 last night.
Correct.
From a let me ask also, did you grow up in the New York? What brings you to be a Rangers fan? So I'm originally from Tampa, and so I was long gone from Tampa by the time we got a hockey team. But I am a homer. I support my Rays, my Bucks, and my Lightning. And if we ever got any other teams there, I would probably support them as well. So that's why I'm a Lightning fan. Why are you a Rangers fan?
Family of mine on my mom's side and grandpa's side are from New York City and kind of Long Island as well. So just pieces here and there just kind of filtered down to me.
Now, where did you grow up? Because you just said that you grew up playing. So that's why you have the analytical perspective. So where did you grow up? Because growing up in Florida, there's a reason I did not learn how to skate until I got to Kansas. That was not, if you told someone my age in Florida, if you said, hey, you want to go to the ice rink? I would have said, I'm sorry, what? Is that at the beach?
Exactly.
So where were you geographically that you were able to play hockey growing up, or did play hockey growing up?
Funny enough, in Nebraska. So I'm from Lincoln originally.
Okay.
And yeah.
Now, so how's the hockey community there? Because it's always weird when I would run into the hockey community here in Kansas City. Like if one of our girls was going, there used to be this place in Kansas City called like Pepsi Ice Midwest, and it had like basketball, volleyball courts, but it also had an ice rink. And so sometimes we'd go over there, and in between games that our kids were playing, we would go over there and see hockey. But there was only one game. It didn't seem like there were a lot of rinks. So I always imagined that Kansas City hockey was small. How was that in Nebraska? What was the junior hockey like in Nebraska?
It's similar. There's
was there a lot of traveling for you to get to play to play different people?
Here and there. I made that choice to not go that direction, but there were opportunities for that. Going to Kearney, Nebraska, which is 2 hours west. There's going all the way out to like Des Moines. There's going into the Dakotas. So like just kind of the region in general has a very healthy hockey community.
It does. Yeah. And I guess the further north you get, the further, because that's one thing when I was a trainer with Sprint, I remember the first time that I spent some time in winter in the Minneapolis area, and just driving down the street and house after house having a backyard rink. To me, that just blew my mind. I wish I could I think that would be amazing to be a kid and grow up and do that. To have a backdoor or a backyard hockey rink like that. So, okay, so let's talk about the game from last night. So, what age, I guess, did you start playing hockey?
When I was basically about, let's say, 5 or 6.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And do you still, I mean, is that as an adult now, a young adult, is there opportunity like for, I know there's some leagues. I've shot photography of some of the men's leagues around here, but is there such a thing as like pickup hockey, where just you and guys that want to play hockey, there's a place where you can go and just play?
Typically, yes. Yeah, there's adult leagues that you can just sign up and go play really as much as you want.
Do you ever do that? Or if you don't, do you ever have the bug to do that?
Yes, I do. I haven't actually done it yet. As soon as I decide, hey, let's just go for it. Yes. But yeah, I've been wanting to do that for a long time.
So here's one thing as a 54, soon to be 55-year-old male that did not learn. So I didn't even learn how to properly skate. So my parents, when we moved to Kansas City, there was a place called King Louie, which was a bowling alley ice rink. And so they would take us because then I guess when we moved here in the wintertime, once we experienced cold, ice is part of that. So we decided we wanted to skate. So they would just take us and drop us off. And back in the 70s, you could do this for 10-year-olds. Here's money, go in and skate. Well, I didn't learn until a couple years ago that your skate size is not the same as your shoe size. In fact,
correct.
So I was going in, and I was always like, man, I get blisters no matter how many pairs of socks I wear, no matter what I do. It's because I was wearing shoes that were a size and a half too large.
Yep.
And that, little things like that. And I always thought that skating, I needed to be upright. I didn't know I needed to skate edges.
Uh-huh.
And so it was like, because they just said, here it goes. And so I wish that I, as a 55-year-old, could now learn how to play hockey. But when I watch videos on YouTube of like the little 3-year-old or 5-year-old, I don't know how old the kids are, when they're learning how to jump over the blue line and learning how to skate, I think that would be very humorous to do the same thing, but with people in their 50s that had never learned how to play hockey, never learned how to skate, but go through the same exact drills those little kids go through to try to learn a little bit more about the game. I've always thought that would be humorous, but I break too easy, so that's probably wouldn't be a good thing either. So now we're going to finally get to last night's game. What was your overall take from last night's game?
So, in general, for at least, my Rangers, I didn't quite see the same level of urgency that I had become used to seeing in previous series, game 1 and 2. Just that level of drive that they just didn't have it. And now that the series is tied 2-2, I feel like there's a bit more of a push, that hunger to get there again. And there were certainly chances for them to gain that and get some momentum. But the Lightning just played their game better, honestly.
Now, you do come from an analytical position and from a Rangers position. You did say that you could see some of what I was talking about, their failure to protect their guy between the pipes. And so then I watched last night, and I will say, here's a couple things that I noticed is on the first power play the Lightning had. There was one point where after the whistle blew, Corey Perry skated in there and basically sat on Shesterkin, and no one did anything about it. No one pushed him out of the way, or if they did, it was a very slow response and not very volatile response, which because I was like, and then the next time down, I started watching every time the whistle blew and it was a dead puck that Vasilevsky had stopped. there was someone to his left and someone to his right, just standing there like sentries. Every single time. And then you never saw that. There was that, because those were their positions. Just like they had positions around the boards, you have certain positions depending on your position on the ice. But I mean, like, so that's where those two guys go. The whistle blows and they stand there and make sure. And there was no one. I didn't see the Rangers, after all the grief that they were saying about how and abuse isn't the right word, but they were complaining about the Lightning taking shots at Igor. And so I thought that maybe they would push back more to that. And it seemed like it was even less, honestly, last night. Because the Lightning, they just kind of skated away when they were around Igor, and no one pushed them out of to me. And I could be seeing this with filtered eyes. And you listened to my show yesterday, What do you think after what I said yesterday, what I just said, and what you're seeing as a Rangers fan? And someone who knows much more about the game than I do, is much more analytic about the game than I am. So what are you seeing with their defense of their goalie?
So, yeah, as soon as I was hearing that from your show, I did pay attention to that. And yeah, I kind of noticed just how, like, the defense weren't sticking up for him as much as they really should have.
And now that I've seen that, it's drawn, because now I'm like, I assume that there's some people between the pipes where you're like, screw that guy tonight. He gets put 5 goals on him. That's fine. Where they may have some for whatever reason, because it just seems like, and I have not watched the Rangers. I will tell them that I probably watched the games where they played the Lightning this year, and then I've watched this series. So it is very difficult for me as a homer to sit down, no matter how good the other teams are, to watch other hockey. I can do it for a little bit. So I have not seen much of them during the season. Do you watch many of their games, or do you get a lot of feedback, or do you like watch highlights or anything on YouTube? So do you follow them enough throughout the season that you could speak to whether this is something that's changed, or whether now looking back in the season, this may have been there but not an issue until 7-game series?
I didn't watch the regular season enough to really get a sense of that aspect of it.
Okay.
But I feel like whether it was there or not in the regular season, it should be here now, because, hey, this is the time where, you don't play, you're gone. That's it. And I'm really wondering if that's something that they fix, like, games going forward, being that they will be at home, and just that is one of the main issues.
Well, I did tag the Rangers in my Instagram post yesterday about the show. So if they wanted to go listen to yesterday's show, maybe I shouldn't do that. I should not tag them any more shows, because I don't want them to be alerted. If they're not aware that they're not doing that, I don't need to help them to learn that. And I will tell you, I was very upset that the Lightning let that goal in last night. I was not happy, just because, and I mentioned on the, I believe I'm the type that when you have someone down, you destroy them. And that's because I grew up in the 70s and 80s with, like, Halloween, where you think someone's dead and then you look out the window and they're gone. So I just believe because I think that one goal could have given them a little bit of, I hope's not the right word, but if you know what I mean, because if they wouldn't have, so if it would have ended up 4-0 last night, that means that the Lightning had scored 7 straight goals in the series. Because and so I just as a mental aspect, and maybe that will be something that will drive the team. I don't know. Now, what position do you typically play when you were playing?
I originally started center or wing, and then as time went on, I went more towards defenseman.
Okay.
So that might add to the perspective that I have of, hey, I need to watch where the play is going to judge where I go.
Do you think as a Is there a difference? And this is someone from me not knowing not playing the game, not being involved in that part of the game. Do you think the defenseman or the front linesman or the totality of the team, like if a goal like that's given up, like Sergachev took that penalty, which I believe is what led to that goal on Reeves, which we'll talk about that in a second. But do you think that's a driving force? Do you think he goes, if that was you and you took a penalty, especially maybe a bad penalty, which I'm trying to remember exactly. I know that I think they called interference, although it looked like whatever. Do you go up to your goalie afterwards and apologize? Because that's their shutout. Do you apologize? Do you take on a personal responsibility for that? And even if that wasn't you, say a teammate did that, next time we're going to make sure this doesn't happen because we want to ensure this shutout or whatever. As a player, what type of responsibility did you take for something like that? Or did you?
Something like that. Stupid penalties happen. It's up to everyone else to try and recover from that. Do you talk to the goalie during the game? No, they need to be
right, just
on point. I would expect that's something that a coach would come to you during or after the game for sure. So that's more of an individual, you focus on yourself, and maybe the rest of the team, maybe they try and hold you accountable as well. But that's also that's just part of being in that group.
I just wonder, sometimes I feel so bad when a goalie has a shutout for 59 and a half minutes and loses the shutout. So I just wonder if I'm feeling worse for that goalie and that team than the actual goalie and the team themselves. Or if they're so I just didn't know how much that would play into it. And I'm going to circle back to Reeves, who I always call out as being the Rangers' only tough man. I haven't seen enough games to know that. I just know where typically Reeves goes to play. He's considered the tough guy. And on that penalty we were just talking about with Sergachev, it was on Reeves. And then Reeves took a penalty for slashing, and then Sergachev doubled up by slashing back. But I saw that his face on that, when he's lying on the ground and he slashes Sergachev. And I just thought it was funny because the look that he gave was like, maybe I should have, because I feel like people pick on Sergachev right now because he's young and they want to see whether he's going to fight. And he has held his own this year and last year. A couple years ago, it was a different matter. But I did think that was funny when Reeves did that. And then when he got up and Sergachev was like, fuck you, and slashed him back, that it doesn't seem, once again, that the Lightning are even afraid of Reeves or anyone. Do you see that as so we've talked about the goal, just protecting your goalie. Now we're just talking about the game, because typically in a game, not so much in the playoffs, but often when you get to 3-0 late in the game, things get chippy, and it did not get chippy. So I don't know if they thought they actually had a chance to get back into that, or whether they've just found out that their matchups may not be favorable if it got into a scrum.
Well, and almost speaking to that too, when was the fight as well?
Oh, yeah. So that was two guys that normally don't fight.
Yeah, that was interesting to see.
Yeah. And it was, I thought it was funny because, here's my deal. First of all, I don't understand why hockey players don't wear full masks, like the full plastic mask. I don't understand that. And it's funny because my wife works in the dental field, and I keep telling her, he should be like with the Kansas City Mavericks or a junior hockey team or whatever. Just say, hey, because you will be at least, here in Kansas, 4 to 6 months out of the year, you'll have a steady stream of customers, but they all wear the mask. And I don't understand why they don't do that. And someone told me that it played hockey. They go, well, you don't want to wear a mask if you fight. Well, if you want to fight someone and you have to say, we're going to throw the gloves, then you just both peel the helmets off. Because that's one thing I don't understand. I wouldn't want to hit. I may want to fight someone, but I don't want to punch someone in the head that's wearing a helmet. And Hagel did that after that fight. They showed him in the because he lost his helmet very early on. And was it Vetrano? Was that? I think that's
it was Vetrano. Yeah, that's right.
So and he kept his helmet on, and when they went to the box, Hagel immediately was icing his hand. And it's like, why would you punch someone? First of all, they're wearing a lot of padding. I've always wondered. I know that there's certain hits that land and will drop people, but I also wonder with the amount of padding, there's only so much exposed skin. I mean, exposed area that's not covered with padding, and you're on skates. So how hard is that to dig in to play? It's not like UFC, a Superman punch, where someone runs up and jumps and punches. So I've also wondered that. But that fight was very interesting last night.
Yeah.
So
if you got hit with pads, you'd still feel it. Especially getting hit with a puck, that hurts.
Right.
It just lessens the impact. That's a good way to say it.
Yeah. I mean, and I know that they're tough, and I know that the fighting, but I also wonder, just trying to move around. Like, I'm sitting here in an office type chair, and it swivels. And I'm just wondering if I tried to fight someone in an office chair and we're swiveling and punching each other, even if I use one hand to grab that person to try to punch, it wouldn't be the same force as if we didn't have that. So
correct.
I just that was an interesting fight. And I don't even remember who. It didn't seem like it was. I don't know. I do think Hagel went up high. I'm trying to remember the exact, because I don't think they showed it live. I think they showed it in a replay, and I don't know what led to it, but I think Hagel went back to Vetrano and hit it up high, and that's what led to it.
Yeah, so. It was like a cross check.
Yeah.
On Vetrano, and then it just kind of turned into you want to go, huh? Yeah.
Yeah, and and that was just really odd. And I've seen some other things that I don't remember whether I mentioned it in yesterday's show, because I don't listen to my own shows generally because I'm doing them, so I don't need to go back and sit through it again. But
exactly,
one of the things I thought was funny, and he hasn't played the last two games, but Cal Foote, who's 6'4"-ish, he's not as filled out as Hedman. He's young. He's in his early 20s. But at one point, he had two Rangers in headlocks. And I thought that was funny because if you looked at just pictures of the Tampa Bay Lightning, he would be one of the last people just because he has this baby face. And it was funny because he had two of the Rangers in headlocks. And it was one, just like the fight last night, that was someone that I would not assume that would. He's one that I think, and I've watched almost every game this year. I've probably only missed a handful. He's one that's really, I think, tried to step up and take on that role of protect. That he's no longer the young kid that needs to be protected. That that he is now, trying to set that tone in some aspects. On the youth line with the Rangers. And I'm going to try to wrap this up. I didn't know I'd talk this much about. I thought I was going to be trashing you about the games again, about what you expect to happen.
But it seems just like a normal fun talk, right?
I know, but so with the kid line, has that?
Yeah.
Do you know how recent is that? Something that they've had all year long, or is that something that has gelled more towards the playoffs? Or do you know? Because I know that you said you didn't watch them throughout the entirety of the year. So are you familiar with when that kind of gelled together?
Not exactly, but I feel like it was throughout the year, not just before the playoffs. I think they've definitely been there for him, and you're definitely seeing them execute and perform very well.
And that's one thing that I think is very cool about them and had me thinking about them is when I was talking about Cal Foote here with youth. Well, when Ross Colton last year was a rookie and young and people were wanting to take kind of runs and shots at him, they had to put him on a line. They put him out there with, I know it was Maroon. I'm trying to remember who it was also on that line with him. It may have been Yanni Gourde. But anyway, it seemed like they had, because if someone went after Colton, then they had Maroon that would go in there and say, no, you're not picking on this guy. And so I thought that was interesting with your young gun line or the kid line it didn't seem like that they can take care of their own. Because sometimes it just seemed like our guys needed an enforcer. And so I do think that they're impressive. I do think that thus far they are a much better line than wherever Zimbabwe and Kreider are at. Even though they've scored consistently throughout the series, I think that there is more fear for me as a fan, and maybe as the Lightning as a team, when the Rangers kid line's on the ice. Let's see. What do you think's going to happen? Going back to New York for 5, and then we have 6. Oh, here's another thing I'm wondering. Whoever comes out of this, I'm going to assume it goes 7 games at this point, but even if it doesn't, if it goes 6 games, the Avalanche will have been off for, I believe, 8 days, and if it goes 7 games, they'll have been off for 10 days.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, I think that the Lightning would fare better then. And just like, I think you and I talked about this just in person, that... And this was before, we did talk about this in person, before the series. We were wondering how the layoff would affect the Lightning. And they did look out of sorts, especially game 1, somewhat game 2. I think they were starting to come around. And I think I had said the Lightning may have had 9 days off, but then once they get back to playing again, they had 9 days of rest. Whereas the Rangers had the consistency of playing basically every other day for a month now, but they're also going to have the accumulated effects of have played every other day for a month now. So I think that the Lightning would be much better suited, because if this goes 7 games, but if the Rangers get there to face the Avalanche, they are going to be on fumes. I just have this feeling.
I think they can do it, but you can see the effects of fatigue starting to set in.
Right.
And especially in a series like where we're at right now, the past 2 series, they've come from behind, so they can do it. It's just, it's interesting to see them in this position where, cool, they're tied. They're not, I mean, they should have the fire up their ass, but... Well,
I'm going to point out something that I didn't learn until last night. So the announcers, I did not know that both the Penguins and Hurricane series ended with backup goalies for each of those teams.
Yes, that is something that...
And just so you... Yeah. And I'm sure you're aware of this because you are an analytical hockey guy. Vasilevsky's not a backup goalie.
Correct, yes.
So that may play out. My thing is, I could see, I would like to say that the Lightning will win the next 2. We're going to go to, that would be my prediction, that the Lightning win the next 2. We go there, we jump all over, we steal at least the first game, if not one of both games in Colorado, because they're so well rested. Although altitude may be an issue. That may offset that somewhat. But if we could steal a game and then come back. But I fully expect this to... I think the Rangers will come out, and I think that it's going to be the game that... I don't think there's any way that the Rangers lose 5 and then go to Tampa and win 6. I can't see that happening. They really need to win 5. And even if they win 5 at home and everyone holds at home, Tampa goes back and wins at home, then you have all the pressure is going to be on Shesterkin at that point. And then you're really going to see if the defense or the team comes to his defense. So that is my perspective. How are you seeing the next game and the rest of the series playing out?
Yeah, I kind of agree.
Stop!
I don't exactly...
You're supposed to be like, we're supposed to be like the angry people on ESPN where you go past and it doesn't matter what they're talking about, but they're agree. Oh my gosh. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So no, you're good. This is your show. So it's not exactly that whoever wins the next one probably could win the series, but it could come down to that. Yeah. It really, really could. I think it just depends on each team's ability to counter the other team's game plan And cool. Like for the Hurricanes in that series, they had not lost at home until that last game where we took it from them.
Right.
Now, could that happen to us? It's very possible. But if that doesn't happen, then maybe we squeak through. That is very true.
I need to go back and listen to my show during the Toronto series, because I actually think I called when we were down. I think going into Game 6, I said we're going to win this series because we're playing Toronto and they don't know how to win in the first round. And then I said, like, I thought we played Carolina. I thought we would have played Carolina in the second round and then Florida. I guess I didn't even pay attention to the seeding or anything. So I think I said I wasn't worried about Carolina or Florida because they're Carolina and Florida. And they all, no matter how good they're doing during a season, once you get to the playoffs, they'll just like Kadri of the Avalanche. And I know he's out with injury right now, but it seems like every year something happens to him. Usually he's getting suspended, it seems like, in the playoffs. So you can just always count on something. So I was counting on the Hurricane and the Panthers to take care of themselves. I never fully expected to see the Rangers there. I just honestly didn't think they were going to be there. So I'm glad that they are. I think you and I should talk again after this series. And then, because one of our teams will be going on to face the Avalanche, and then we can give our predictions pre-Stanley Cup final. So
yes,
okay.
Definitely.
So, okay, thank you, coworker. And see, here's the bad. So, and not the bad thing. So, my Bobby she's probably going to say that I need to talk to you more often because the use of the word fuck seems to be. I think that's the second time I've used it, and that's why I used it then during this show. And if you would do that in comparison to yesterday's show, there was a disproportionate amount of F-bombs thrown yesterday as opposed to today. And that's because of you. So You're should be welcome. I know it sounds like I'm not happy about the whole situation, but I probably am using that word too much. So I will tell you, I will go ahead and say thank you from my wife in advance, because once she listens to the show, she's going to tell me to tell you thank you. So I'm going to take care of that in advance. So, well, I would say good luck. I would say good luck to the Rangers, but I wouldn't mean it, so I'm not going to say it.
I'd say good luck to the Lightning, but I want the Rangers to win.
I know, and I do agree with you. I do enjoy good hockey, but if I can't have good hockey, I do want the Lightning to, like I say, curb stomp everyone. So that being said, I will try to keep my tongue in check, no matter how the next few get. Because, like I say, I'm going to talk shit whether we win or lose. And I told you last night we could lose 15-0 to the Rangers, and I'm still going to talk shit. So I will do my best to be civil for the next at least 4 to 6 days, and then we will reconvene prior to the Stanley Cup final, where one of us will be cheering our team on to victory, we hope.
Yep.
Okay.
Most definitely.
Thanks for being on. Hey, for everyone else, thank you for joining a special edition, a bonus edition of the Stone Genius podcast. But this is Talking Tampa Bay Sports with Roe. Me and my special guest, the Rangers fan. We want to say thank you for listening. We'll talk to you all again later. Bye.